Woodley White. March 31st, 1952, in Long Beach, California, just south of LA. I came to Hawaii in 2007, January 2007, and I wanted to live in Hawaii, so I moved over and built a house, and took time to build the house, and then as soon as I got the house built, I went back to building instruments. So, yeah. Oh gosh, I'm a real eclectic person. I listen to all kinds of music. Lately, I have been a real fan of Ahmad Jamal, so I listen to a lot of jazz. But I like acoustic fingerstyle guitar playing. I like rock and roll. I like blues. There's just a lot of different styles of music that I like. Yeah. I like Hawaiian music. I've become a real fan of Hawaiian music, and it's helped me learn the language a little bit too. Yes, I play classical guitar, and I play a little bit of electric guitar, and I play a little bit of piano, but mostly I play ukulele. I did have a band, but it's disbanded right now. So yeah, no.
You're in between record contracts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no. For about 3 years, I think we played in the local restaurants, and there were just 3 or 4 of us that played. We played drums, guitar, and ukulele, and we sang songs. So yeah. Yeah, I love woodworking in general. So building the house here was a lot of fun. Designing and building it was a lot of fun. I see myself as able to do finish carpentry and general carpentry, and those are trades that I've worked in actually. But I love making furniture, so I like making chairs and tables and different types of woodworking artwork. I also do glass fusing, and
what is glass fusing?
Glass fusing is where you take pieces of glass or ground up glass, and you put it in a kiln, and you heat it up to 1700 degrees, and it melts together, and then you cool it back down, and then you heat it a second time, not quite that hot, up to about 1500, and slump it into a bowl or make it into different shapes, and so that's what glass fusing is, yeah. We lived in Portland, Oregon, so I moved from Portland. I grew up in Southern California, along the coast. I was a surfer, used to surf every day, and when I was a kid. And I used to make surfboards, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did, for a number of years.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Oregon, and then Julie and we lived in Tennessee, and then we lived back in Portland, and we built our own house there. That's really how we afforded to come here, was we bought a piece of land and built a house, and then didn't spend very much money on it, and then sold it at the peak of the crazy housing market. So that ended up giving us a way to move to Hawaii and not have to owe any money on a house. So, I think it was 4.5 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm not sure, something like that. It was really, I met Bob Gleason. I met Bob Gleason about 8 years ago or something, and he and I became friends, and as we moved over here, I knew Bob, but I was building guitars at the time. I went to his house for a meeting of the Big Island Ukulele Guild, and there were like 30 guys there, and maybe 1 or 2 women who were building instruments. And I just looked around and thought, this looks like a blast. So I bought some wood from Bob, and I made 4 ukuleles, and I made them different styles because I really didn't know what was going to sound best. So I took my classical guitar and reduced it, and I took the Martin and the Kamaka shapes and built. So I built these just to test and see what. And I made 12 fret and 14 fret, and just to see if I could understand what was going to make the best sound. And because most ukuleles, I don't like the sound. Most ukuleles are too harsh.
Well, when you
I started building instruments 22 years ago. I made a classical guitar, and then I made an acoustic guitar, and then I made another classical guitar, and I started taking lessons from a guy who's probably the best guitar builder in the world. His guitars right now sell for $37,000 for a classical guitar, and he does not take any orders anymore.
and that is
His name's Jeffrey Elliott, and he's in Portland, Oregon, and he became one of my best friends. And so after I made two guitars, I took them to him and said, "Here, go, tell me what to do. How can I make this better?" And he gave me feedback, and then I said, "Well, could I hire you every week to tutor me for like 4 hours every Friday, if I paid you by the hour?" And he said, "Sure." So we did that for a while, and so I made a classical guitar under his tutelage, and the guitar was in his house, and he actually sold it for me. And so then I started getting orders from him, and people would come to him and say, "I'd like to buy a guitar from you," and he'd say, "Well, sure, but my list is 16 years long," and they'd say, "I don't want to wait 16 years. Who can I buy one from now?" And he would give my name, and so I pretty quickly had a list of clients, and I had a 2 or 3 year waiting list for guitars. First off, Jeffrey Elliott lives with a woman named Cindy Burton. She's a guitar maker, but she does all of the finish work on his. So she taught me to do French polish early on, and I really think the world of Jeff and Cindy. They have such integrity in their lives. They live a simple life, and they're really committed to building instruments. But Portland is a hotbed for not only music, but instrument makers. And so I became close friends with a number of really great builders there. Charles Fox, who has the American School of Lutherie, became a close friend of mine. John Greben, who's a great guitar builder. Mike Doolin, who's a great guitar builder. I mean, there were probably about 10 to 20 guys and women who were there in Portland who are incredible instrument makers. And we had a guitar society, so every month we got together and we had people play instruments, and we showed our instruments, and so there was a real active group of people who were not enthusiastic about stringed instruments. Here, I got to say that Bob Gleason was definitely the most influential person in my life, and I'm really a big fan of Dennis Lake too, and Fred Vento. I think they're really fantastic people and great builders. But Bob is kind of like a great mentor who's willing to take time to teach and to show you how to do something right, and he really cares passionately about what he's doing. So I think the world of Bob, and those are the main influences here for me. Pu'uwai. It means heart, and so for me, music bridges every culture and gets to the soul or the heart of things, and so I wanted a name that really spoke to that. And I believe that music is more powerful for changing the world than religion. I mean, religion just ends up dividing us, and we argue and fight over it. Whereas a good piece of music, anybody can really connect with it. So to me, the Pu'uwai is the soul or the heart, and to get to that level, that's what it's all about for me. So I probably build about 20 to 25 ukuleles a year, and for the last several years have built 1 or 2 guitars, and sometimes a harp guitar at the same time. And like this year, I've built 1 harp guitar, 2 classical guitars, and 20 some odd ukuleles. And so I like to build 1 instrument at a time, and I find that I never do that because I get so passionate. I can see a piece of wood and I'll end up staying up all night working on it. I'll get so excited about the next ukulele. And I'll go to Marcus's house to talk to him or work on something with him, and I'll see a piece of wood in his shop, and he's like, "Well, you want that piece of wood?" Yeah. He said, "Oh yeah, you should build something out of that." I'll come home, and I can't think of anything else except working on that new instrument. So I'm a little bit ADD about the instrument building, because I'm so passionate about it that it's kind of, I'd like to read every book in the library too, but I'm not going to. But so I want to do high quality work and take my time and really do a good job. And for me, the sound is the most important part, but the aesthetics are important too. It's got to really, the instrument's got to feel right. It's got to play with a great sound, and it's got to have kind of a connection between the person and that instrument somehow. So to me, to do the instrument making is something I've gotten into, because it's like woodworking with a whole different level of purpose, So I don't know. I'm addicted, I think. So. The philosophy flows from the sound, in that I want something that really, really connects to the heart. And then the woods that we use for these things they too, there's something deeper than just building some piece of, woodworking project. It's almost magical, the woods that we've been exposed to here. I don't know. I've fallen in love with koa. Of course, like the African blackwood and the rosewoods and stuff that I've learned from guitar building. I still really appreciate and think there's a lot of potential for ukulele. I admire you guys because you're willing to take the chance outside of just the koa world, which most ukulele makers are just kind of, that's the market, right? And yet the sound, koa's great, but there's a whole range that's way beyond, it's possible beyond that, that is, you kind of have to have some nerve to. So yeah, my philosophy is to try to do high quality building, but the main purpose is to get to the sound. I think that the key to any stringed instrument is the top, and the back and sides are going to complement what happens on the top, but the top is the soundboard. And so thickness of the top, having a well-seasoned piece of wood, and then bracing it and making the shape such that it's going to produce the best possible sound. And there's infinite possibilities. You could do lattice bracing, you could do parallel bracing, you could, the tradition for an ukulele is just 3 braces, And so I experimented with that, and I didn't like the sound as well as a finer bracing scheme which opens up the top. So for me, this opening of the top is, I think, a key to finding good sound. And so I brace the top. Let me just show you. So you can see right here that what I do is put a piece of hardwood down on the top so the top will have integrity. It's a little thin 1/2 millimeter piece of hardwood. And then I take well-seasoned, this stuff here is 20 years old that I went up in the Alps and personally got. So I know it's well-seasoned. And then so you can see that the design allows more of the top to move, which I think is key in a small instrument, because in a small instrument like this, you're just limited in your possibilities, whereas in a guitar you have such a much bigger soundboard. So when you're working in something this small, to aim for good sound is difficult. It's a challenge to get something that's going to sound good. So anyway, and you can see I have 5 fine braces, fan braces, and the pattern is based on the Antonio Torres instrument that sounds so great. I mean, here in the 1860s, this cabinet maker designs an instrument that sounds unbelievable. 150 years later, unbelievable. And when I played his instrument that he made for Francisco Terrega back in 1863, when I got to play his guitar, about 10 years ago, Jeffrey Elliott had it, was repairing it. I played it, and immediately there was a connection not only with that sound, but with what I'm doing. I'm a part of a family. So, I mean, that's just unbelievable. So I've tried to take the same concept and bring it down into the ukulele. So the top is the key, technically. The top is your soundboard. And so thickness, Bob Gleason was helpful here, because since this is a hardwood and I'm used to using spruce and cedar and redwood for tops, I know those woods. But when I first started making, I was making it a little bit too thick, and Bob Gleason says, make it thinner, go thinner. And so and then when I did, the sound started just blooming. I'm looking for a sound that the sound wave itself, the sound blossoms and then goes back down. Not something that's harsh, something that just, I really want something that has an allure to it, a real beauty to the sound. That first Blackwood one we did, I mean, it was just like, whoa, this is a different instrument. Is this an ukulele? It was just, there was something to it automatically that was beyond anything that I'd heard as an ukulele. And so, but I think, the color and the tone and the character of each instrument, varies between each one. But I think there's also, I don't know, there's something funny about how each builder gets their sound. I mean, I think you probably could go to your shop and put a blindfold on the two of you and have instruments made, and probably Bob's instrument or Fred's instrument or my instrument, I'll bet you could identify them just listening to them. And so I don't know where that comes from exactly. I mean, design and wood and everything is part of it, but somehow each builder has their own signature that just comes through the instruments as they build, which is their signature sound. Okay, so I went to Bob first, and he showed me a soprano that was apart, and he said, don't put any bracing in it. So I went to Dennis, and I said, Dennis, I'm looking for a good shape, and he said, well, you can modify my shape. So he gave me the basic shape, and I took his shape and then created my own from his. So I had both those people given me the basic ideas, but I think there's a lot of luck here. I don't know, or intuition, or I don't know how you get to the, when you're making your first instrument. But I've had that luck actually with classical guitars and with other instruments that, somehow I don't know, I guess you use the best of your judgment along with what foot feels right, I mean, you push the top and see, I think there's a lot of luck in that. I probably, right now, I'm really curious to explore the range of possibilities with koa sides and back and spruce tops. And I really get that from, intuitively I think that, and also from my classical guitar building years, I want to try that more. But it's what James Hill says is his main choice right now. So I think the world of him, and so I want to explore that more. But I also think that I would like to experiment with other rosewoods and other and mahogany and other woods, but probably with spruce as a top wood, or redwood as a top wood. Those would probably be my two choices. I like German spruce a lot, and I like Engelmann spruce a lot, which comes mostly from Canada and is very similar to German spruce. The Engelmann, you have to build a little bit thicker. It's got kind of a sweeter sound. The German spruce has got more of a strong fundamental in the sound. I have a lot of Italian spruce too, but there's more complexity, like overtones in the sound. So I would, for ukulele, I think I would choose German probably. Oh gosh. I think, well, I'm really curious about the Eric Devine instruments. They look intriguing to me. So that might be the person I would choose. I think there's a real consistency to Bob's instruments. I like his instruments a lot. I'm not sure who else what comes to mind for me. You know, I'm not sure I've been exposed enough to the different instruments, but I would definitely go with one of the makers who makes instruments one at a time. I wouldn't go with a factory type situation. Oh boy. My sales pitch would be just to play an uke and say, listen to this. I don't know what else to, I mean, I'm not very good at promoting myself, I don't think. And the sales part of it is probably the thing I'm the least adept at. I do it, honestly, because I love it, and I don't really, I mean, it's nice to make money, but there's a part of me that would like to not have money related to what I'm doing. I'd rather build an instrument for you and give it to you. That's what in an ideal world, that's what I would do. I would rather give all my instruments away. The problem with that is that there's a lot of people that wouldn't even know how to deal with that, you know? So I'm not, it's not a very good business strategy, obviously. So now I'm making instruments for each of my children and grandchildren, and that's one of the things I want to achieve in my life is, by the time I die, I want all of my family to have an instrument that I made, that they can remember me by, and it can just be something very special. And you know, it's nice to not, because there's a part, I want to do really high quality work, but there's a part of me that doesn't care sometimes. There's a part of me that says, it's okay if it has a blemish, or if there's a part that's not perfect. Because for me, I don't care so much about perfection as I care about beauty. Every tree is imperfect and is beautiful. And that's the aesthetic that I live and work by. Now that shouldn't let me off the hook and let me do crappy work, you know. I shouldn't accept that as an excuse to not try to do my best. I think I should always be striving. I think do your best is something that always has to be going through my mind as I'm thinking, but I also know that I'm a human being and I make mistakes, and with time I accept those mistakes more. I don't beat myself up if I make a mistake now. I just, okay, so you made that mistake. Are you going to stop and fix it? Because most everything's fixable. Or are you going to go on and go to the next one and try to do better? So, I mean, I'm not driven in terms of having to have everything perfect. I'm not. I don't really, at one level I don't care. On the other level, I'd like to be. I'd like to do that. But I think to be compulsive and about the details sometimes is not as important. I mean, I'd rather have an instrument that sounded great than one that looked perfect. So that's my bottom line philosophy.
The secret sauce.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.